Hey YouTube, Rico Knows here. If you didn't hear, I am doing an assessment or review on every single draft pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. And today I'm talking about the San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, whatever you want to call them Chargers. Shout out to Jack Murphy Stadium. So shout out to the Chargers. So I'm going to be talking about them. But before I get into this video, I do want to remind you guys, if you want to see the assessments of all the other teams, all you have to do is go to YouTube, search Rico Knows, go to the playlist tab, and then you will see the 2025 NFL Draft reviews and assessments and all the videos there. There's currently 16 already done. I'm going alphabetical by city. I don't know why the Chargers came up before Las Vegas, but whole nother conversation. But here we are, LVLA. I don't know what's going on. It is what it is. One of the things I wanted to talk about in this draft is there's a new GM for the Chargers, and his name is Joe Hortiz here. Joe Hortiz is from the the Ravens organization. Okay, and that's important when you hear me talking about some of these draft picks and the decisions being made. Now, he's not making these decisions alone. He is also making the decisions with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach, just so you're aware. All right, so let's talk about this draft and how I feel about it. Okay, first and foremost, in the first round, 22nd pick, they take Omarion Hampton. And some people aren't going to like the way I say this, but please listen to what I'm saying. I am telling you, Omarion Hampton is the best running back in the entire NFL draft. For me, when I did my assessment of players and I looked at them, and the way I do this is I look at the players and I say, okay, if I had tryouts tomorrow and they weren't wearing any jerseys, I didn't know who they were, and I just said, yo, we got a group of guys out here and they're all trying out for my team. I'm not picking Ashton Jeanty to be my starting running back. I don't think Ashton Jeanty is better than Omarion Hampton when we look at talent side by side, right next to each other. I don't see it. I see more burst on tape. I see this. I see this. Remember, Omarion Hampton is the second leading rusher in college football over the last 2 years. Yes, it's Ashton Jeanty number 1, Omarion Hampton number 2. Oh, by the way, Omarion Hampton plays in a Power 4 conference and is doing this against better defenses. I'll rephrase it for you guys. Omarion Hampton, if he played for the Boise State Broncos, he would be the all-time rushing leader in NCAA history. He would have broken Barry Sanders' record. That's how good Omarion Hampton is. So I think he's an amazing running back. I think this is a phenomenal pick, and people aren't going to like me saying all that. I don't care. I assess talent differently from all of you. You might think your wife is pretty. I think she's fugly. We have difference in opinions, and that goes for football players as well. I'm just keeping it real. Okay, so shout out to Omarion Hampton. Yes, they have Najee Harris, brought him in free agency. It might be a while before Omarion Hampton takes all the carries, the lion's share of the carries. I get that. But for me, that's the best running back in the NFL draft, and you got him in the first round. Now, we can go and have another conversation about why I don't like running backs in the first round. You get a fifth-year option with him. Congratulations. I don't like taking running backs in the first round. He's the best one, though. Okay, shout out to him. Second pick, Tre Harris. Man, do I love me some Tre Harris. I love Tre Harris, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, when he transferred from La Tech to Ole Miss, there was so many other receivers transferring into that room. There was so many other receivers that showed up after he got there, guys like Beanie Wells, right? And some others. Let me tell you, I just don't want to name one. I can name them all. I'm the transfer portal guy. But what I want to do is just tell you that it doesn't matter who transferred in that room. This was the alpha male of the room. This was the best player at Ole Miss for the last 2 years. If you watched on Saturdays, Tre Harris was the best player. And they get him in the second round. I think it's phenomenal. I don't necessarily know if they wanted Tre Harris. But they had no other choice. Remember, they needed to address defensive tackle. And they couldn't do that in the second round at this spot. The only defensive tackles left were Shamar and Turner and Omar Norman-Lott. And both those guys have non-draftable grades from me. So it makes sense. You take your receiver now, you'll get your defensive tackle in the third round. That's fine. But when I look at Tre Harris, my only concern is this damn organization. It's unfortunate. The Chargers have drafted 7 wide receivers the last 3 years. 7, man. That's a lot of draft picks wasted, even if it's some throwaway picks. If we go in here and we look at their picks, I don't know if you guys can see this on your phones or wherever you're watching this video, but Tre Harris here in the second round. They got Keandre Lambert-Smith or Big Play Dre in the 5th round. And then last year, they took Ladd McConkey in the second round. Same spot. They took Ladd. Okay, so that's back-to-back years you got second-round draft picks at wide receiver. And then you ended the draft with 2 throwaway picks on Brennan Rice and Cornelius Johnson. And the year before, you used the first-round pick on Quentin Johnston and a fourth-round pick on Darius Davis. So this wide receiver room, you've thrown 7. Now, some people will be like, well, Rico, the draft picks weren't made by Joe Hortiz. It was somebody else. Well, let me tell you, Joe Hortiz comes from the Ravens. Do you know how many wide receivers in the last 20 years the Ravens, in their existence? The Baltimore Ravens, I remember when they got created, right? It's when the Browns moved overnight. When the Baltimore Ravens got created, they haven't drafted a Pro Bowl wide receiver. I think what's-his-face just became one after an injury or something like that. Was it Flowers or whatever his name is? Like Zay Flowers, right? So they've never drafted a Pro Bowl wide receiver. This man does not have a track record of he was a player personnel guy or a scout initially and then a player personnel guy. Like, there's no track record here of him drafting wide receivers great. Somebody wrote that to me on Twitter today. Or not Twitter, TikTok. They were like, oh, Rico, you don't understand. Joe knows how to draft wide receivers. Where? What's your premise? What's your proof of concept? All I know is this team, this organization, keeps wasting draft picks on wide receivers, all to appease Herbert, all to appease the quarterback. Because that's the excuse. He's got to be an elite quarterback. Everybody in the building believes in him. So why aren't they winning? Oh, he needs more weapons. He needs more. No, he doesn't. You probably need better players everywhere. Well, Rico, we're going to get more. Okay, well, you got him. Now do something with him. But you're throwing away draft picks in one position group. I've never seen 7 wide receivers drafted in 3 years. I've never. And you keep drafting them because you're just throwing them away. You kidding me, bro? Cornelius Johnson was drafted last year in the 7th round. And everybody told me, oh, Rico, he's Harbaugh's guy. He was at Michigan. Bro didn't even make the practice squad. When you're drafting players and you're cutting them 3 months later, 4 months later, you're cutting them, and they don't even make the practice squad. On any team. If you didn't know how that works, you can sign to any team on the practice squad. You clear waivers, and if you're on a practice squad, any team can sign you to the active roster. Nobody's signing these guys. These wide receivers are trash. And they keep and now look, you got some good ones. You got some guys I like. I hate you for drafting good wide receivers. You're wasting them. Enough. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those guys who buy weapons and then just go off and shoot them in the woods. They're not hunting. They're not target practicing. They're just shooting them in the air. Just wasting ammunition. That's what it reminds me of. I can't stand those people. I can't stand you, bro, whoever you are. Jamari Caldwell in the 3rd round. Jamari Caldwell, this is a transfer from Houston, and when he transferred in to Oregon, I didn't like him because he was going to the highest bidder. I got word back to me. I talked to a lot of NIL agents. I talked to a lot of players and obviously a lot of college coaches, and word got back to me, hey, Rico, we can't sign this guy. They're asking for too much money. Well, you know what? Oregon signed him. They didn't care. Now, what does he do well? He goes out there and he causes pressures. And with the defensive line that the Chargers have, it makes sense that they needed a defensive tackle up front to push that pocket and collapse it. They have great edge rushers. A little old, a little aging. I get it. But the draft pick makes sense and where they got him. Doesn't really move me because I know the guy's motives were just to get more money. I don't know. I just don't like people built like that. I don't like that mindset. Rico, it's about getting rich. It's about getting money. Nah, man, it's really not. I just like other things. I value other motives, your motivation to be great. Let me just say that to you guys. There's intrinsic motivation and then there's external or instrumental. I'm going to give you $40 if you cut the grass. Well, that's pretty cool. You'll keep cutting the grass for $40 until you have enough money and you say, well, I don't need the $40. Now you're not going to cut the grass anymore. And somebody else, if they wanted to cut the grass because they like the way their yard looks, they're going to cut the grass the entire time because they love the way the yard looks. It's kind of the same concept. Some of these players, they just want to play ball for the paycheck. They want to play ball to whoever's paying them and getting the most money. And that's cool. But some of these guys are born and they say, I want to play ball because I love football. I love football. I like to support guys who love football. And when I hear you're going to different teams for the highest bidder, I don't think you love football. I don't. I'm just letting you know. It is what it is. Kyle Kennard, shout out to Kyle Kennard, was playing phenomenal at Georgia Tech. They needed him bad. And then he jumped in the transfer portal and went to South Carolina. And at South Carolina, they had a ton of great defensive linemen. You know who the best defensive lineman was? Kyle Kennard. Now, he's not a known high commodity like TJ Sanders was at defensive tackle, but a defensive end like Kyle Kennard, that dude's a player. Now, they don't need him right away. He don't need to be in the rotation. They already got Thule there. They drafted him in the second round 3 years ago, and he just got 8.5 sacks last year. That's a great player. We're talking about Kyle Kennard, though. I think he's a good player. I think over time he'll be there. That'll be a starter someday. It's a great pick, by the way. In the next round, in the 5th round, you get Keandre Lambert-Smith. Big play, Dre. Shout out to him getting away from Drew Aller. You're his leading receiver. You're his star receiver, and you leave. The only 5-star in America. Only 5-star quarterback in America losing his leading receivers to the transfer portal because they don't want to play with that bum. They don't want to be running around not getting thrown the ball. Keandre Lambert-Smith is a big play guy. I like him. I hope it works out for him. Yet another wide receiver drafted by the Chargers. Congratulations. Also in the 5th round, later in the 5th round, they take another receiver. Now, he's labeled a tight end, but he's just a receiver. Oronde Gadsden, former stud wide receiver coming out of high school, got too big, got too strong, got too good, and they moved him to tight end, and he's very effective. He's a hybrid tight end. He can go out there and do things. I am not the biggest fan of Gadsden, but he's grown on me just by the production and his ability to beat one-on-one coverage. And I think he's a nightmare for people when they don't double-team him or don't chip him off the line. A number of things you got to do to stop this guy. But once he gets rolling, it's that NFL pedigree at tight end. Sneaky good pick. And they knew this. They traded away 2 6-round picks to move up and get him because they knew, hey, this is the type of talent we need. They didn't have a tight end last year, and this really hurt them. Once again, another weapon for Herbert. No more excuses, Herbert. No more excuses. Okay. Next draft pick in the 6th round, they get Branson Taylor, offensive tackle from Pitt. Tough dude. Good player. Been around for a while, playing at the tackle position. I think he's moving to guard when he plays in the NFL. And a lot of teams like to do this because if you look at college teams, their best player on the line is their left tackle, the blind side. And that guy is usually the best offensive lineman on the team. And they just say, hey, well, if you're the best guy, you're versatile enough to play everywhere. So let's move you around and let's teach you other positions. You're already the best athlete on that offensive line. And that's an example of this right here. They got a guy who can actually play everywhere, and I hope it works out for them. R.J. Mickens, father used to play in the NFL, legacy guy, been at Clemson forever. He played 60 games, 6-0. 6-0 games at Clemson. That's pro ready. Guess what? I don't know if he makes the team. I don't know if they need him. These guys are notorious for drafting players and not making the team. Tyqueezy. Mr. Bridges from Florida. Feels like a throwaway pick at the end of the draft. I don't even know if he makes the roster. I'm keeping it real. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, Chargers fans. It looks like you got yourself some great weapons, some great players. But when you could have addressed the trenches, the depth, and gotten some meat eaters, it feels like we're just doing some other shit. All right, peace.